Ilya Dragunov versus Volta from last week's NXT UK is possibly the greatest match all year, and with raving reviews and high praise from viewers alike, is it enough to get NXT UK on the map as a must-watch show for wrestling fans? WWE is forcing their talent to suspend operations on streaming platforms like Twitch, but Paige thinks otherwise. Is she biting the hand that feeds her, or could this be leading to something bigger and better for not just her, but her co-workers who have discretions as well? AEW allegedly has a video game coming soon, one that's been very much anticipated by wrestling fans. New Japan Pro Wrestling announces participants for Best of the Super Juniors 27 and Super J Cup USA, and I give my predictions on that, as well as AEW's pay-per-view this coming weekend, Full Gear. We're discussing all of that and more on this, the 19th episode of the Chill Spill podcast. The S is silent, by the way. Yo, what is going on, guys? It's your boy Tyler Mask, aka Tyler Suplex, aka Tyler Kuhn Williams, aka the one who thought he lived, and welcome back to another edition of the Chill Pill podcast. And that's pill spelled with an S, but it's silent, much like the rest of America when the results come in for tonight's presidential election. Oh man, today's election day. I guess all of you Americans watching this, you are watching this with anticipation or anxiety, and more likely it's the latter, and I don't blame you. It's been a very, very interesting 4 years we've had with our current president. He could very well be reelected. At the time a lot of you listening to this, we may very well already know who our president is. I don't know if this is going up the day of the 3rd or the day after the 3rd. I'm going to say more than likely it may be Tuesday night, and still by that time you may be finding out who the president is. I don't know. But what I do know is that we are on the 19th edition of the Chill Pill. I tried to slip by that. I'm not trying to talk about the U.S. presidential election and all that kind of stuff. You guys can worry about it after we have our president, whether it's the new president or still the president. If I had to give should I give a prediction for who's going to be the president? Should I give a prediction? I mean, I feel like if I give one, you guys are all going to assume that I'm picking the person who I voted for, which that may or may not be true, but whatever. I mean, looking at the landscape, you're choosing between Joe Biden and Donald Trump. You know, I have this real pending fear that Donald Trump is going to be reelected president. So, I don't know. I think my gut sadly is saying Trump. So, as much as I don't want it to happen, and I think a lot of people are going to hear this and hate me for it, I predict that Donald Trump will be reelected the president of the United States. Do I want it? Not necessarily, but hey, you know, if it doesn't happen, I ain't crying about it either. Either way, let's get straight into the podcast, all that out the way. So we have quite a few things to cover here. It may be our shortest episode yet because I didn't put down a lot of stuff I want to cover. There are some things I want to cover that I kind of just took out because I either thought that it's not really my place to mention it or something I just didn't want to discuss. But hey, let's first talk about WWE forcing their talent to quit Twitch, suspend Twitch, walk away from Twitch, whatever the case may be. WWE is forcing their talent to do so, and I don't want to hear any other terminology but forcing them to do so. It's not some, oh guys, maybe if you just no, there's repercussions if they don't do it. So I'm sure all of you are informed about this by now. It was all over the wrestling community, all around Twitter, Reddit, Facebook, all that kind of stuff. Even a month ago, when we got word that WWE was sending out emails to their talent about seizing operations on websites like Twitch and Cameo, and people were getting all mad and angry, and I was getting a little frustrated about that. But at the end of the day, we really didn't know exactly what this entailed. All we knew was that by this day on October, if they didn't do it, then they could face repercussions. Like, basically, they gave them a 30-day grace period to get their act together, get their stuff together. And then just a few days ago, a lot of Discord chats from a lot of these wrestlers like AJ Styles and Mia Yim, Cesaro, Zelina Vega, Aleister Black, who have Discord chats for their community on Twitch or other platforms, they have formed their community that they will not be doing Twitch anymore, and that by the company's basically new rules now, they have to stop doing it. And it just was really disheartening to hear, especially Paige, who was actually live. I could not imagine being live when it happened. I bet it felt like she got laid off of her job. Like, this is something that she makes a lot of money off of. I think she makes somewhere around, like, you know, thousands to tens of thousands of dollars a month on Twitch. She makes bank. She makes good amount of money on there, and it's not all about the money. She has fans. She has a community. As somebody who's been doing Twitch streaming for a few months and has been live streaming on YouTube and doing YouTube content for years now, I know the feeling of having something taken away from you. I mean, at one point, a few months ago, not that long ago, was at, I would say, my peak performance on YouTube. I was actually bringing in some revenue. I actually had I was getting a lot of views. I had a lot of people who knew who I was. They were expecting stuff from me. I was pumping stuff out. People enjoyed it. The next thing I know, it was taken away from me just like that. I got copyright strike to hell, and my channel was deleted. So I know exactly where she's coming from. When you have something going for you, then out of nowhere, it's ripped out of your hands by somebody you thought was on your side. I mean, after all, I was in New Japan Pro Wrestling's Together project. I thought CBSI was on my side, but I guess not. She was on her stream, and she was talking about how I can't deal with this company anymore, and she was going through a slew of emotions like anger and sadness. At one point, she almost started crying, talk about how the community is so special to her, and that she's been injured and out of wrestling for so long, and she needed something to fill this void that wrestling couldn't fill up, and Twitch was that escape for her. It was the thing that really did fill that void. And now the same company that overworked her is, and this is me paraphrasing her word, by the way, the company that basically overworked her is now saying, well, you can't do what you love doing anymore for a second time. And it honestly was depressing to hear. I don't know how anybody could feel for Paige in this moment. And now we're seeing days after this that Paige is still live streaming on Twitch. She was on Twitch the other day. I actually tuned into her Twitch stream just to see what she was doing. She seems like she's really all about just chatting. I'm not saying I don't see her doing much of else other than just chatting, but you know, she's always talking to her chat. That's nice to see. I see her and Rusev both live react to football, which I didn't know was an actual thing. I mean, I should expect it's an actual thing, but it looks professionally done. Like, you know, a company may like be having them stream football. I don't know, but I saw her live streaming football in the stream. Like, she seems like she's having a great time. So to see her back streaming is you know, fun and all. After what happened, though, it makes the question about did they say she was okay to stream, or is she going against the grain here? And I guess the answer really is that she's kind of going against the grain, because to my knowledge, I don't think WWE has really even spoke on this issue since the I mean, I don't think WWE has even addressed the issue themselves. I mean, we're hearing all this stuff from the talent, from news reporters like Sean Ross Sapp and Dave Meltzer. WWE, I don't think, has addressed it. And I don't know if they even really have to address it, because this is pertaining to their talent, and that's really none of our business. But at the same time, when you have these rules set down and your talent is not doing it, then question is, what happens to Paige? Now, apparently, according to the email that was sent out, if they do not comply, they are subject to fines and even possible termination. So Paige could possibly get fined or fired because of this. And, you know, if obviously she feels that strongly about what she's doing, that she's going to keep doing it. And I don't fucking blame her. I don't blame her at all for keeping with what she's doing. I think, I don't want to reiterate what everybody's already said, because everybody has already said the same thing already. So I don't want to repeat everyone else's point. But it's stupid for WWE to say you are not allowed to participate in your own ventures outside of this company unless we have a cut of it. Because basically what was also said in the email was that what they were streaming, or possibly could be doing in the future with streaming, because apparently they have a relationship pending with Twitch. They might be doing some Twitch stuff over there, WWE will, which doom and gloom for all of you illegal streamers on Twitch. I'm just Listen, I'm just saying, because as somebody who's on Twitch, I have to keep up a lot of this news, and Twitch is starting to roll out a lot of DMCA claims to bigger Twitch streamers. I see a lot of guys, a lot of people on the top echelon, like Pokemon and XQC and Ninja, who are all talking about this. I watch a lot of Devin Nash. He's talking about this. All the people getting DMCA claims from a lot of these companies, these big record labels. The DMCAs are real, and they're coming. And I think that if WWE makes its way to Twitch, I think that you're going to see a lot of your wrestling streamers start getting DMCA claims from WWE, whether it's songs or legally live streaming videos. I think a lot of your favorite or legal Twitch streamers are going to start getting DMCAs, and rightfully so. Now, as for the people who do live reactions on WWE content, maybe they should look into that, and maybe they should look into what I do, which is not showing any video audio whatsoever. But if WWE makes their way to Twitch, then that's going to spell a lot of interest in what's going to happen with the landscape of wrestling community on that platform. But then you also get back into what we were originally talking about here, which is that if WWE does ventures on Twitch, that the wrestlers on their Twitch account, I think it said they would get paid, but it would go towards their downside guarantee. And for all of you who don't know what a downside guarantee is, basically when you're signing to a certain company to a contract for however much money you get signed to. Let's say, for instance, who should I give an example to? I don't know. R-Truth. R-Truth signed a new deal with WWE for $500,000. This is just an example. I don't know if he actually makes that much money. $500,000. The $500,000 is his downside guarantee, which means that within the amount of time slot he is supposed to work with the company, he is going to get paid this amount of money. So even if he's injured and out for like 4 years, which is outrageous, but example, he's out for like a few years or whatever, and he can't wrestle. By the end of his contract, he is still required by law to get paid that amount of money, if I'm correct. So if these wrestlers have this money on their contract, they're making some side hustle money with Twitch, and now you're saying this is going towards our downside guarantee. So basically what we can gather from all that is that these wrestlers are going to make money, but only a little bit of that money, because some of that money is obviously going to WWE. Then the money they do get, cool, you got some side money, but it's not actually added money because it's actually WWE paying you for live streaming. So basically WWE is making this part of their job. And that just sucks, and I'm glad that people like Andrew Yang are looking into this, and it's being brought to light in many other platforms outside of WWE. I saw The Quartering on YouTube started talking about this. I saw some other YouTubers who don't really even talk about pro wrestling. They were talk about this on their platforms. So thankfully, this is getting some coverage outside of it. I mean, I don't think it's big enough to go on the news. I think if Paige were to get fired, this is definitely going on the news. So that's also the thing about the whole, if the talent does this, they'll get fined and sued. I think at worst, Paige will get fined. They're not going to fire Paige. You mean to tell me the same Paige who's been NXT Women's Champion, Raw Women's Champion, accomplishments aside, booking aside, you know, the same woman who has a movie made about her, Fighting With My Family, directed by whatever the guy's name is, and produced by The Rock, by Dwayne The Rock Johnson, one of the biggest stars in Hollywood, a former WWE superstar, produced the movie. This wasn't just a straight to DVD movie like every other WWE movie ever. This was a movie that was showcased in theaters. I think it was nominated for some type of award too. This is a mainstream movie that was made about Paige. You mean to tell me that they're going to fire her because she streamed on Twitch? All hell's gonna break loose with this company if that happened. So no, I don't. Now I'm not saying they're not crazy enough to do it. I just don't think they will. But knowing this company, they may try some stupid shit like that. I don't think, in my mind, they're that dumb though. So no, I don't think she's gonna get fired. Worse, she'll get fined and fined and fined until eventually her contract runs out, because I don't think she can quit because she's locked in a contract, whatever that may be. As far as the other wrestlers, I have seen that Zelina Vega is still streaming on Twitch, so obviously she's not adhering to it. I don't know what's going on with AJ Styles. I don't think he's been live on Twitch lately, or Mia Yim. Excuse me. All I do know is that Paige is just one of the wrestlers that is not going with this bullshit. And that's great. But Paige is one singular person. There's many other wrestlers out there who are using websites like YouTube.com and Twitch.tv and Cameo. That if they all band together and just say no, WWE isn't going to fine and fire all of them. So they're going to have no choice but to revise. I'm not saying to get rid of it because they won't, but revise what they are doing here. I think that there has to be some type of, I hate to use the word union because wrestling unions seem to be this unspoken naughty word used in the wrestling industry, but maybe all these guys sitting down and saying, hey, we're not going to stand for this. We're going to keep streaming because they're not going to do this to all of us. Then that's even better. AJ Styles is the biggest name out of all the people I see on Twitch. He should be the guy that should not stop streaming. Are you really think they're going to find and fire AJ Styles? A guy who main evented WrestleMania with The Undertaker? A guy who's been a WWE champion, main evented many shows? They're not going to fire AJ Styles. Now, would they fire somebody like a Zelina Vega? Maybe. Would they fire somebody like an Aleister Black? Maybe. Would they fire somebody like Mia Yim? Maybe. Would they fire somebody like Cesaro? I mean, I'd like to think no, because he's been there for a long time, but maybe. I mean, Black Wednesday this year taught me otherwise about who stays and who goes depending on tenureship. But if all those guys this name collectively said no, they're not going to fine and fire only one or two of them, because that's completely unfair, and you're going to witness backlash from all ends of the world if all 5 of these people violate terms and only 2 of them get fired. So that's not going to happen. They have to hit everybody or hit nobody. And I think they would end up hitting nobody because they don't want a chance having to deal with the fact that their roster is depleting because of rules that they made. So if the roster truly believes that this is just as dumb as everyone else in the world thinks, they will not. And I'm not saying that they don't have a reason to fear possibility of losing their job, because I would too and you would too. But they should not lay down for the WWE. They should not lay down and just take this. I think they should take it to hand. They should all band together and they should all keep doing exactly what they're doing and see what happens. Worst comes to worst, I think this will come back to bite WWE in the ass. But hey, I'm still following this as it goes along. As somebody who's on Twitch a lot more, any Twitch news is really my concern now. So I'm following this, but I think it's dumb. I think it's stupid. I'm glad to see Paige is still streaming. We'll see what comes of that very soon. Speaking of Vince McMahon, who made that dumbass decision, he's getting a documentary on Netflix, which is going to be, I think, costed at $30 million. The highest costing documentary in Netflix history. So you already know it's going to be fluffed with a bunch of bullshit, because I don't... As cool as it would be to hear about a Vince McMahon documentary in the life of times of him growing up, I do not see this being 100% authentic. It's WWE. WWE has a hand in how Vince McMahon will be portrayed. Yes, I know he's been portrayed as a villain for a lot of his WWE career, but that's within the confines of WWE. Outside of the wrestling business, Vince McMahon is a businessman. He has to present and conduct himself a certain way. He's not a heel outside of the company. Trust me. That's not what he wants his image to be. So if you are going to sit here and really think that they're going to include Vince McMahon forcing Trish Stratus to bark like a dog and calling people bitches and wrestling his daughter at one point, and all the times he was sloppily making out with talent like what was her name? Victoria, Candice Michelle, Trish Stratus at one point as well. All the corrosive and disgusting storylines he's been in, all the accusations and lawsuits and just dirty rumors. Like, I'm not saying that it's going to be sunshines and rainbows in his documentary, because that's completely unrealistic. But I think that people are expecting some Dark Side of the Ring type documentary of Vince McMahon, and that is just not the case. It's directed by the same company that he owns. So while it excites me, my expectations for it are pretty low right now, because I don't exactly know how the turnout will be in terms of authentic. Now, I'm not going to sit here and act like I know Vince McMahon, but I don't know how this is going to be completely 100% believable, in my opinion. But hey, Whenever it comes out, I'll be here for it. I remember about a year ago when they announced that they were working on it. Didn't they say that they were debating on casting some who I think was it Bradley Cooper? Let me look into this. Hold on. Somebody Vince McMahon. It was either Bradley Cooper, I think it was John Hamm maybe. Vince McMahon documentary. Like they said somebody was going to be casted. I think it was like John Hamm, Bradley Cooper. They were talking Pandemonium. Pandemonium, what is it going to be called? Yeah, it was like back 3 years ago. Okay, yes, I was right. Bradley Cooper was offered to play the starring role of Vince McMahon in the Pandemonium, which I'm pretty sure is exactly what this biopic is going to be. It's going to be the Pandemonium biopic that's going to be done on Netflix. So Bradley Cooper was the one that was offered the role. I thought I heard something that like John Hamm got offered the role as well. John Hamm, I could honestly believe, can play Vince McMahon. Bradley Cooper seems kind of young to be playing Vince McMahon. Like, how old is Bradley Cooper? Bradley Cooper. He looks young. Bradley Cooper's 45. Hey, Philly native. Let's go. Bradley Cooper's 45. I don't know. I'm looking at a picture of Bradley Cooper right now. I knew who he was, by the way. Like, if you guys ever heard of the movie Silver Linings Playbook, Bradley Cooper and Jennifer Lawrence, the movie was actually shot 2 blocks down the street from where my house was back in 2010. They shot the movie, and I remember because there was all this like Hollywood crew equipment like 2 blocks down the street from me, and every day I would walk my dog and I would try to walk by it, and then the fucking crew would be like, no people beyond this point, we're currently filming. I'll be like, okay. And I walk away, just kind of like stand there with the dog and just trying to see what's going on. So yeah, I know who Bradley Cooper is. I think he's a good actor, but I don't know if he would actually, I mean, he's a Hollywood actor. He probably could pull it off. John Hamm sounds like I want you guys to comment down below if you're listening to this right now. If we're talking about this documentary, this Vince McMahon documentary, who do you think would be a good role to slide in there as Vince McMahon? Now, after all, it is a documentary, so honestly, they don't have to cast anybody in to play Vince McMahon aside from a guy who maybe has his back turned the whole time. Think of Dark Side of the Ring. They never really have somebody playing, the person that's actually the character. They're just there for portrayal. They could just be having somebody portray Vince McMahon, and you wouldn't cast Bradley Cooper to portray Vince McMahon. So if they're having an actor, who do you think it should be? If it's a portrayal, then forget about it because it's not worth it. But I just remember that when I was looking at my show notes. That honestly was not planned. I said honestly like 18 times already. Let me stop. So coming out of that story, we have AEW Games. Yesterday on Twitter, a new account arose as well as a new YouTube channel. All were tweeted by AEW's current Twitter handle called AEW Games. No further information beyond this point, as when I click on the video and anyone else clicks on the video, it's basically like AEW Games, like, all this really cool flashy techie stuff, and it shows that Tuesday, November 10th at 6 p.m. Eastern Time will be the reveal. Now everybody's all excited and anticipating, and this is the official announcement of an AEW video game, and I don't know. I mean, we're talking about AEW's been around for a year. Unless they've had this under wraps for like an entire year and just have said nothing this entire time, I don't think this is the announcement of AEW video game. I think this might be just... I'm sounding disappointed. I feel like I'm lowering my expectations because I feel like this might be similar to how Xavier Woods does Up, Up, Down, Down, where you have somebody from AEW roster host this YouTube channel, and then guys come on and play video games with them. But the thing is, we see this on Twitch all the time. Miro's on Twitch, always playing Among Us with Leva Bates and Ali and what's Trent, Orange Cat. Like, we see these guys playing video games on Twitch all the time. So for them to do it on YouTube, this seems kind of redundant and not really as charismatic and new. So at the same time, if that is the case, then I don't really think that's worth a humongous reveal announcement for. So at this point, if you're setting a bar like that, then maybe it is an AEW video game. They're calling it AEW Games. Well, I don't think that's what they're going to call a video game, but hey, maybe that's what they're calling the subsidiary at least. I'm having my expectations lowered. That's all I'm going to say about that right now. Do I want there to be an AEW video game? Obviously, I do. I've always been a big fan of wrestling video games and buying them since I was a little kid. I've always loved playing them. I would absolutely love to have an AEW video game. I would definitely love to create content with an AEW video game. Do I anticipate one happening? Yes, but I don't know if it's going to be this soon. And if they do announce an AEW video game, don't expect it to be coming out on a PS5 release date next Friday or whatever. It's not coming out until 2021, 2022. So, yeah. Sorry to shoot the bird down while it's flying up in the air high in the sky, but just want to bring you guys back down to earth a little bit. What could possibly happen? To get into a little bit of sad news here, Kylie Rae, I did have her actually put in my show notes last week, but I ended up cutting that part out because I didn't want to really comment on her mental health. But Kylie Rae, she was scheduled to face Su Yung. Not Su Yung, I got it mixed up. She was scheduled to face Deonna Purrazzo. That's who we got. At Bound for Glory last week for the Impact Knockouts Championship. And Kylie Rae no-showed. And Su Yung was the one to replace her, and she ended up defeating Deonna Purrazzo to become the Knockouts champion. The thing about the no-show was that it was obviously a no-show. She didn't come to work. But also, she didn't tell her family, her friends, her coworkers, her boss. Nobody knew where she was. It was very similar to AEW last year, which I brought up in my point on last week's episode that I cut out. It was very similar to last year in AEW, where she seemingly was almost slotted to get this big push. And then when it came time, she basically just dipped on AEW. Without a trace, without really saying anything, she just said bye. And everyone speculated that it was bullying, and Brandy Rhodes was saying this and that to her, and everyone made stories up in her head about what happened. But she came out and said, oh, it was none of that. I just need to align myself with God and all that kind of stuff. Not to undermine anyone's religion. Absolutely not. I was just saying, whatnot as a figurative speech. But that's where she was last year. This year, she's back in a spot, a top spot. Obviously, since Su Yung won the championship, it looked like Kylie Rae was going to beat Deonna Purrazzo for the Knockouts championship. And she didn't show up to work. Nobody knew where she was. A few days later, she deleted her Twitter. She made a post on Patreon, and it said this. I'm truly sorry for the pain I've caused and miscommunication. I am currently unwell. I am also sorry that I wasn't able to get this out before your monthly subscription charge. I wanted to take this time to say I'm no longer a professional wrestler and am currently taking a break from social media. It's been a very hard decision to make, but please understand, when I am well, I will fulfill any obligations that have been missed. During this time, most tiers will not be able to be fulfilled. Feel free to unsubscribe from this membership Patreon account. Thank you for your understanding, heart emoji. So in that tweet alone, not only has she taken time off from social media, which isn't a big story, people do that all the time, but she said that she is no longer a professional wrestler. So it seems like Kylie Rae has retired from professional wrestling. And I guess she did feel a debt to let her Patreon backers know, because obviously they're paying her for a service, and it was coming up on the end of the month where Patreon backers were going to have to subscribe, because if you guys may or may not know, I do have a Patreon, patreon.com/TylerMask. At the beginning of every month, they charge you. So obviously they were going to charge her Patreon backers, and I guess it was in good faith that she'd say, hey guys, I can't do this, so feel free to unsubscribe, which good on her. But it is sad to know that her wrestling career has come to an end. If for anything else, I hope that she is in good health. She's getting that. It's obvious to me that she is going through some type of mental or emotional despair. I don't know what it is. It's not my business to know. It's none of your business to know. But whatever is going on in her personal life, I truly hope she gets help from it, because this is the second time it happens, and that kind of stuff tends to worry people. And the fact that she didn't let any of her friends or family know, that's definitely a reason to wonder and hope that she is going to get better, do better, and bounce back even stronger than she was before. Now, will she ever come back to pro wrestling? I don't know. Should she come back to pro wrestling? Only when she is ready and knows that she can put her all into it again. If she never comes back, then she had a great run doing what she did. She loved doing what she do. She brought a lot of enjoyment and happiness into the lives of pro wrestling fans. I can't speak from my own experience with her. I can't identify as a fan of her work. I really only known her for a short period of time before AEW, and then when AEW started. After that, I really can only say I've seen her wrestle like maybe a handful of times. But she seemed like a positive woman. She always had this nice smile to her and very happy-go-lucky. Reminded me a lot of Bayley. I have no bad issues with her. I have no bad feeling towards her. I've never heard a bad word about Kylie Ray at that either. I really hope and wish the best for her. I really do. She seemed like a kind soul, and whatever is going on in her life, I hope it gets situated. All that sad news out the way. Also, we had the passing of Tracy Smothers this weekend. A kind soul, also a legend in his own right in the wrestling industry. Can't comment too much on Tracy Smothers as I'm not familiar with his work, but I have seen him wrestle once on GCW when I attended an event last year. He was, I believe, very close to a lot of wrestlers, inspired a lot of wrestlers, and I hope he had a very, very good run, and I hope a lot of you maybe check out his work in remembrance of his legacy. But moving on from those sad notes, we get into some good news. ROH crowned their first ever pure champion in the last 14 years. If you guys don't know, ROH is running their first pure tournament. A very, very interesting one. I say interesting in a good way, by the way. As someone who's watched, I have to say, cherry-picked, not gonna lie. We did pick and choose certain matches to watch from the tournament. As someone who's seen some matches for the tournament, I can say if you're a big fan of technical wrestling and you're going to really enjoy what you saw here in the main event, in the final round of the tournament, we saw Jonathan Gresham versus Spicy, or what is it, Hot Sauce? Jesus Christ. Spicy Hot Sauce, Tracy Williams. Jonathan Gresham ended up winning the match. I thought it was a solid match. I hate saying the word solid. I can't really say it was like a really good match or anything. I didn't think it was that special. I thought there was way better matches in the tournament from before the finals. But it was good for what it was worth. Jonathan Gresham is the first pure champion since 2006, I believe. And Jonathan Gresham is one, I would say, the best choice to be the pure champion. I mean, this is a guy who I believe has had a really good showing the last year I've seen him wrestle. I mean, I've only known of Jonathan Gresham for the last 2 years. But of the 2 years I've seen him wrestle, he is, above all, one of the most technically sound wrestlers I've seen in the ring. I don't really think there was a better person to put the title on than Jonathan Gresham. So, all the power to him. The question now coming out of this is, was this enough to get me watching Ring of Honor? And the answer to that question is no. Sadly, the pure tournament, while I did think a lot of the matches I saw were really good to even great, there's just a lot more work to be done with Ring of Honor than just, oh, this had a great tournament, so I'm going to tune in. Now, would I tune in for maybe a pure title defense? Okay, yeah, I would check a match out if it was recommended to me. I feel like for me, I'm the type of wrestling fan where I watch what I like, I watch what is easiest to consume, and I also watch what I am familiar with. And it's not to say that I will never ever check out a wrestling promotion or match that I have never heard of before. But for me, I grew up a WWE boy. I grew up on Raw. I grew up on SmackDown. I can really honestly say I grew up on NXT too, because in 2010 when it started, I was only 13 years old. So I grew up on really anything WWE related. Attitude Era Watts, I had the disc when I was younger. Ruthless Aggression Era is when I started watching. So for a lot of my life, all I know was WWE. Of course, as I got older, I started to get into Japanese wrestling and New Japan Pro Wrestling and independent wrestling, like the likes of GCW and Ring of Honor. I also started to watch Stardom in the last 2 years. So I've really started to mature. I've really started to, I would say, add more to my palate. However, at the same time, when it comes to consuming newer products, it's not that easy, I should say. I mean, I have a job like a lot of you do. I work a lot, but at the same time, I'm also a content creator. When I'm on here watching wrestling matches, a lot of the time I'm watching it because I know I'm going to end up talking about it on stream, talking about it on my podcast, talking about it on YouTube. When I watch wrestling nowadays, I have an incentive to watch wrestling because I might end up covering it. I'm not saying that I never watch wrestling just to watch wrestling, because then that's not enjoying wrestling. That's just basically consuming it as a job. But I don't really get the opportunity to just watch it just to watch it. Like, if I'm watching Ring of Honor, I'm watching it to see how it's going to do on my platform. But if it does well, I'll watch Ring of Honor. But at the same time, if I don't really find a reason to get super invested, then I'm not going to really check out Ring of Honor. A match I talk about up next was a match that's recommended to me by a few people, so that's why I checked it out. But otherwise, I wouldn't watch it. Like, the next example, NXT UK. Right? 2 years ago, I was really big into Progress Wrestling, which is now under the NXT UK banner, was bought out by WWE. But I was really big into Progress Wrestling. They had a show called Hello Wembley. I believe that was in August, like September 2019. I don't even remember how I ended up. You know what it was? Okay, so quick little story here, and I know I'm jumping around. I'm so sorry. But August of 2 years ago, 2018, right? 2018? Yeah, August of 2018. I bought a ticket to a wrestling event that was happening at the 2300 Arena in Philadelphia. And it was a WWN Live event. Now, mind you, I've never been to WWN Live. I've only known of it because I heard that once upon a time, this guy named Velveteen Dream wrestled Orange Cassidy on that show. And yeah, I knew of Orange Cassidy before AEW. But I heard of that. I heard a lot of the guys that I watched on NXT came from WWN Live and from Evolve Wrestling. So I'm like, okay. Matt Riddle's on the show, and I was a really big fan of Matt Riddle at the time. He's defending the title against, I think it was Shane Strickland, who is now Isaiah Swerve Scott in NXT. I'm like, you know what? I'm going to buy a ticket to the show, see what's up. So I ended up buying a ticket to that show. Also, there was a doubleheader. After that was a Progress show. Progress and something else were basically conjoined with each other. And I said, okay, I'll buy a ticket to that as well, just to see what's going on. I heard a lot of guys are going to be on that show that I've heard before. Jordan Grace is a girl that I really heard good things about. I said I'll look into her, see what she's all about. I saw a few other names. I'm like, all right, you know what? I'll check the show out. I bought a ticket to that show. I went in that day. I enjoyed the living fuck out of that Progress show. So much so that I went to the Progress Wrestling Pivot Share and I literally bought a subscription to the site and started watching Progress episodes. That's how great that Progress show was, in my opinion. That is how I become a fan of products. I have to really have a great first impression. That's how I become a fan of a product. Not a good first impression, not an okay it has to be a great one. So I had a great first impression. I started checking out Progress. They had a lot of great talent on that show, a lot of great UK talent. Wasn't a fan of the UK crowds, but I genuinely liked a lot of the stuff I was seeing on the show. From there, I started watching a lot more UK wrestling. So Progress really introduced me to a lot of UK wrestling. Then as the year went on, I slipped away from Progress. Then I heard rumblings about, WWE's going to buy them out. And I was kind of feeling a little bit resentful in some odd wrestling mark kind of way about that. And I really just kind of fell off of Progress for a while. And then literally months after that, I heard the rumors that WWE was going to buy them out. And I'm like, okay, well, I guess I'm not watching Progress anymore because I could just watch NXT UK when that comes out. NXT UK got announced last year. That ended up doing whatever. I think it still doesn't do very well on the network in terms of numbers. But, there's an audience for it. The UK crowd obviously loves it. I think a lot of people who watch NXT UK really have a lot of positive things to say about it. But I never got into NXT UK. I just never did. I tried. I watched the first 2 episodes. But after that, I just never really got back into it again. And this week, I was recommended to watch the match from NXT UK. Ilya Dragunov versus Volta. Now, if you guys know, I'm a big fan of Ilya Dragunov. I have been for the last 2 years because on that second Progress show I've seen, Hello Wembley, that happened in September, Ilya Dragunov wrestled Pete Dunne. Now, I don't remember the match being great, but I remember being really impressed by Ilya Dragunov. And I followed his career after that point. And when I heard that he got signed by WWE, I was like happy for the guy. He had his first match with Cesaro, and I loved that match. And he's been killing it on NXT UK ever since, from what I hear. But he faced Volta. And I've seen I believe all 3 of the matches Ilya Dragunov and Volta have had. So I was really amped to watch this match. And I was telling all my friends, I was telling all my circle, all my little wrestling circle, I'm like, yo, y'all gotta make sure you watch Ilya Dragunov versus Volta and let me know how it goes. I was literally telling them to let me know how it goes because I did not have any incentive to tune in for it initially. Initially, I didn't have any incentive to tune in for it. But once everyone started telling me it was great, I'm like, all right, I'll watch it. And holy shit, that match was amazing. I thought it was honestly one of the greatest matches WWE has put on all year, if not the greatest match they've put on all year. It's everything a pro wrestling fan would want in a strong style pro wrestling match. Stiff strikes, really believable locks and holds, and it really felt like a truly jarring fight at some points. There are some times where the chops and the slaps and the kicks and some of the things Volta was doing to Ilya and the selling was just almost kind of unnerving. And I like that feeling of it being unnerving because it's supposed to be uncomfortable. I'm not supposed to like it. And that's what really just kind of gave you that sense of, wow, this is great. Like, I'm a bit turned off by it, but not in the turned off sense like I don't want to watch it, but almost like I'm engaged at the same time because it's the car crash you can't look away from. That's the easiest way to describe this match. I'm not going to review it because I already did a review of it. I might splice that in here. Actually, you know what? Let's throw in my review of this match in here from YouTube real quick. Either way, we move on to the main event of the evening. Volta versus Ilya Dragunov for the NXT UK Championship. Volta has been champion since April of 2019. That's about what? 19 months he's been champion. I mean, we just got off of a almost 2-year run for Pete Dunne, and now we're getting an almost 2-year run for Volta. So 1 year-long reign after the other these two are having right here. You're almost expecting Volta to win this match, but at the same time, it's Volta. Volta literally can beat anybody because it's a believable guy. I said this on stream and I'll say this again. Volta has this stigma to him. He has this, just the way he stands, the way he carries himself, the confidence. He doesn't look buff, but he's tall. He has that, almost like that dad bod. He looks like a man. He looks like not an average guy. He looks like a manly man. He looks like a guy who go in there and mess you up. And when he gets in the ring and he doesn't have to do some F10s or anything impressive, this dude literally uses his own body as his weapon. His hands, whether it's a chop or a knife edge chop or a straight up punch, or the way he can use his arms for lariats or his legs to kick. Like, that's what I love about Walter, is that he does not need to do anything overly impressive. The way he's able to just use his own body as a mechanism to brutalize and beat you down. That's what I think people love Walter for. And we saw that in here with Ilya Dragunov. And Ilya Dragunov, I've been touting this guy out for the last 2 years because that's when I discovered him. This guy is above all one of, if not the best seller in WWE. When Volta, and I did a counter on my live stream on Twitch, I did a counter of how many chops we saw in this match. Evenly distributed. I didn't count either guy's chops individually, but on my chop counter here, I counted 25 total chops in this match. By the end, both men's chests look brutal, but Ilya Dragunov, you could literally see the scarring of the tissue on his chest because Volta was lighting his chest up. And that's also the thing about Volta, is that since he's big and bigger than Ilya is more shredded, but he's bigger than Ilya. When he delivers those chops, you can hear it because he's heavy-handed and it's brutal. And Ilya just has a way of selling it, and it's not too over the top where it looks kind of comical, but it's over the top to the point where it looks more agonizing. He's able to convey with his facial expression that he's going through pain. He is going through everything you would never want to be going through with what Walter is delivering to him. And the psychology in here was just outstanding. Walter would do a chop and Ilya would... And we talk about fighting spirit a lot in Japan. I'm jumping around a lot here. I know. I'm sorry. We talk about fighting spirit a lot in Japan. And I feel like people associate fighting spirit with no selling. And I saw so much fighting spirit from Ilya Dragunov in this match. And there was no selling. In what I saw here, I didn't see any no selling in this match. And Ilya Dragunov showed a lot of fighting spirit. Just from the kickouts. From the way he was able to withstand all the pain he was going through, or bounce back with a lariat of some sort, and a takedowns. And I wish I could go through this match and tell you every spot blow by blow, but and that's another thing about this match, is that Walter versus Tyler Bate last year was above all one of the greatest matches of the year. I think I listed it number 3 in my top 10 list of greatest matches of 2019. That match I think was like 40 plus minutes. This was either 30 or just under 30. And they accomplished so much in that period of time. With nothing but just hard-hitting moves and suplexes. That's all they needed to do, and that's everything the match was, and it was... man. You know a match is great when you have such a hard time trying to describe it when it was so simple. I really badly want to give you a blow-by-blow representation, but I'm not going to, because I think you should do yourself a favor and go watch this match. I would recommend this match to a non-wrestling fan. I recommend this to a hardcore wrestling fan. I recommend this to a person who has never seen an NXT UK match. This match was just amazing. It was outstanding. Spoiler alert, Walter did win this match. One spot at the end, which was crazy, was he got him on the outside of the ring. He hits this sleeper suplex on the outside. Then he hits an apron powerbomb and gets him in the ring, and I immediately know it's the end. He goes for the powerbomb, hits the Now, Walter has a very diverse moveset. He can end the match in multiple ways. He can end it with a powerbomb. He can end it with a top rope splash. He can end it with a sleeper hold. He can end it with a various amount of different versions of moves he can hit on you, and he can end the match. But he hits the apron powerbomb, and then he follows up with the powerbomb. I'm like, it's over. That's the end of the match. And Ilya kicks out. And I'm like, what is going on? So then he goes for a top rope splash. And I'm like, well, that's definitely the end of the match. 1, 2, and with a weak kick out, Ilya kicks out. And I remember I lost it on stream. I'm like, what the hell? He kicked out of the splash? Oh, he's going for that top rope splash. Yep. It's over. Taking his time, though. He might get out of the way. Yep, it's over. 1, 2. What? What? He kicked out of that too? My God. Holy shit, he's still going. Oh, how? I don't know how. What the hell? I for sure thought that was the end of the match. Yo, I was losing my shit because I'm like, Ilya's still in this. He's got to win this. He's got to win this. But then he locked in the sleeper hold, and Ilya's struggling. He's struggling, and the blood is coming out of his mouth. And I love selling from Ilya because I don't know if maybe he bit his tongue during the match, but he's bleeding from the mouth. And he's doing little splurts, and he's spitting blood out. Kind of like, oh, it's internal bleeding or something. And just the way his body just goes stiff and limber, and the referee calls for the bell. It's like, oh my God, is Ilya actually hurt? But the Walter won, and oh my God, it was perfect. I loved it. I would give this match 10 out of 10. I don't give matches 10 out of 10 often, but God damn it, this match easily, if it was given 5-star by Dave Meltzer, I would entirely agree. This was easily one of the greatest matches I've seen from NXT, from NXT UK, from WWE. I can't say enough great things about this match. Do yourself a favor and go watch this match. I believe you will love it. And if you're not a fan of Ilya Dragunov now, you should be, because he's that damn great at everything that he does. Walter, you already know how great and outstanding he is, but this is just another page in the book of Walter performances that just stand the test of time for why he should go down as one of the greatest of all time when his career is said and done. I'm just saying he should. Enough dick sucking for NXT UK, I guess. So that's my review of the match. But let's talk about something that I found really interesting about this match. So this match aired on last week's episode of NXT UK with Critical and High Acclaim. As you guys know, I tend to frequent this website quite a lot now, called cagematch.net. Cagematch.net is basically an internet pro wrestling database site. Has a lot of matches from a lot of wrestlers. It can tell you anything. But one thing that's really cool about this website is that fans can go on the website and leave a match rating from 0 to 10 on these matches. A lot of matches that are very popular tend to get rated very highly, very poorly, but there tend to be a lot of people who rate the matches, and that reflects a lot of people's opinions on it. If it's a highly rated match, then obviously it was an amazing match. If it's a subpar rated match, then obviously it wasn't worth my time. If it's lowly rated, then it was obviously an egregious match. But this match on cagematch.net, as of right now, has a 9.60 out of 10 rating. Now, a lot of you might be thinking 9.60 is absolutely great, but 9.60 is an absolutely outstanding rating on this site, because this is a website that has, I would say, almost nearly probably somewhere between 100,000 and a million like different matches on this site from many different promotions from many different years and many different countries. There is a whole lot of matches on this website. And you can imagine a lot of matches on this website don't have a 9 out of 10. So for this match to get a 9.60 out of 10, that's outstanding. There's no match that has a 10 out of 10, nor do I ever think there will be a match that's a 10 out of 10, because the perfect match does not exist. But 9.60 is a really high rating. Now we're going to compare this to a match that also has a really high rating from this year, and that's Hangman Page and Kenny Omega versus the Young Bucks at AEW Evolution. That match has a 9.59 out of 10. Now that match is rated by 414 people. And that match also happened in February, so it has a lot of more time for people to rewatch it back and form a formal opinion about it. Ilya Dragunov versus Walter currently has 232 people who have rated that match. So almost half the size of audience of people who rated Young Bucks versus Paige and Omega rated Ilya versus Volta, and that match has more votes. So for going by the weight falls in the favor of Omega, Paige, and Young Bucks. But if we're going by highest rating, then the better match was obviously Ilya and Volta. I still think both matches were outstanding and amazing in their own rights, but they're two of the highest rated matches on here. Now, we're going to compare this with what is the highest rated match of 2020 right now on cagematch.net. The highest rated match on this website right now from the year 2020 is Kazuchika Okada versus Tetsuya Naito from Wrestle Kingdom 14 Night 2, which I must remind all of you that I was at earlier this year. I was there in Tokyo, Japan. I literally have to remind you guys at all times that I was there. And if I don't, I'm not doing my job. But anyway, that match is the highest rated match on cagematch.net from 2020 with a rating of 9.63 out of 10 with 330 votes. So still less votes than Omega, Paige, and the Young Bucks. However, it has the highest rating. So by weight, Omega, Paige, and the Bucks still has more votes. Therefore, it may be more legit in a sense. But as it stands right now, those are the top 3 matches of the year by cagematch.net. Now, my question to you guys is, this match has passed by now. It's been a few days. If you have rewatched it back, do you think this match is among the top 3 of the year? We've had a lot of matches this year. A lot of great matches, and I think it will have to take people some time to gather around their... This is the time of the year where people start gathering around their top 10 matches of the year. Once Survivor Series is over, really, but this is the time of the year we start gathering that up. Do you think right now, at November 3rd, 2020, this is top 3, if not number 1, greatest match of 2020? I want you guys to comment down below, let me know right now. Because me personally, I don't think it's number 1, but I do think it's definitely top 5. If I give it more thought, maybe top 3, but right now I'm going to say top 5 to be on the safe side. Outside of those, we do have AEW Dynamite this week. Well, last week, I should say. We had Hangman Page versus Wardlow. I thought that was a really good match. Heyman Paige won the match with 2 buckshot lariats. I'm just going to run through what I saw last week. Not really going to do a formal review of it. Just a bit of a run through and lead into Full Gear. So Heyman Paige beat Wardlow. He's making it on to the finals of the AEW title eliminator tournament. We also saw Eddie Kingston versus Matt Sydal. That match is pretty okay in my opinion. More or less it advanced the storyline with Eddie and Jon Moxley without Moxley being on TV. Eddie made Matt Sydal tap out the Captain's Hook, which storytelling was the same submission that Jon Moxley made Eddie Kingston tap out to in their first title match a few weeks ago on Dynamite. Eddie made him tap out. He did not go after the bell rung. He told him, I say I quit. And he was calling him Moxley, say I quit, Mox, say I quit, or say I quit, John. And then Matt finally said I quit, and then he let go. And he was aggressively apologizing to Matt, I'm sorry, John, I'm sorry. Just really good stuff in here. At first, I'm not going to lie, when they started teasing this match as the main event or the possible match at Full Gear between Eddie and Jon Moxley, I was like, we literally just saw it for free on TV. I don't know why you want to do it at a pay-per-view now, but they're doing a really good job at building this up. Way better than they did with their first match. So I'm looking forward to their match now, more than I was before. I'll say that much. Next up, the Young Bucks and FTR had a segment. I thought the segment had some, it had some okay engagement. I thought it could have been a lot more, what I don't want to say hard hitting. There should be a lot more low jabs, below the belt jabs between the two men. But I don't know. I feel like content wise, there wasn't too much to gather here, especially considering that the Young Bucks have been acting heelless this entire time, going up against this heel tag team. I don't get that. The Young Bucks ended up adding a stipulation to this match, which I don't get. I'll talk about that later in my Full Gear preview. Chris Jericho and Inner Circle had their town hall with MJF. We saw Luchasaurus step up to the plate and ask MJF a question. MJF compared how his ratings were better when he was talking to Inner Circle than when it wasn't Inner Circle segments without MJF. Britt Baker and Reba were up there as well asking questions. Even Eric Bischoff was there asking questions with MJF regarding the Inner Circle. So it was very apparent that Santana, he's kind of mid. He doesn't know how to feel about MJF right now. Jake Hager just stands there like a mute, so no one really knows. He's probably on Jericho's side. And then you have Ortiz and you have Sammy Guevara, who both do not like MJF whatsoever, and they don't want him in the Inner Circle. But ultimately, it comes down to Chris Jericho's decision, since he's the leader. Chris Jericho ended up laying down the match at Full Gear. We all knew it was coming, and it finally got put down here. Chris Jericho versus MJF. And if MJF wins, he will join the Inner Circle. I'll talk about that in my AEW Full Gear preview in just a few. Cody versus Orange Cassidy for the TNT Championship and a lumberjack match also happened on this show. I'll be honest, the match didn't do much for me, and it felt unnecessary in my opinion. But hey, I guess we had an interesting outcome. I mean, interesting in a pretty okay way, I guess. Okay, so John Silver got in the ring. Lumberjack, mind you. The premise of the match was to keep the Dark Order out of this match, but yet they were ringside, which, okay, that makes sense. John Silver gets in the ring while referee's back is turned and pump kicks Orange Cassidy in the face. Cody gets up, throws him out of the ring, throws John Silver out of the ring, then hits Orange Cassidy with crossroads and pins him. So Cody basically just had an assist to win from the Dark Order. This was confusing because, number one, now I didn't honestly believe that Cody was joining the Dark Order, but maybe if you're a newer viewer and you didn't know any better, you would think that Cody maybe has something to do with the Dark Order from the way this looked. Or Cody is a heel now because there's no way I couldn't believe that Cody didn't see this happen. And maybe he didn't, but he should have heard this happen. That Cody took the cheap way out of beating Orange Cassidy. Orange Cassidy got screwed. That will make Cody really the bad guy in the situation. So, what are they doing here? Also, Orange Cassidy has now lost 3 straight TNT Championship matches. And I know the second match was technically not a loss, but a draw, but he didn't win. He has not won 3 of his TNT Championship matches, so what the hell are they doing with Orange Cassidy? At this point, no more TNT Championship matches. You're a loser. Go back. Go back to teaming. Go back to the undercard for a bit. Work your way back up. It's over for Orange Cassidy. He lost 3 times already. I don't know what the point of that was, but hey, we'll see in due time. All the Lumberjacks brawled after the match. Meh. Serena Deeb versus Layla Hirsch for the NWA Women's Championship was on this show. I thought this was a good match. I would like to see more Layla Hirsch in AEW. I mean, I wouldn't necessarily say sign Layla Hirsch. Not that she's not worthy of a contract. But knowing AEW and their treatment of the division, she shouldn't be on their roster. So don't sign her. But I wouldn't mind seeing her back in AEW to do some more matches in the future. But you want to know what else I wouldn't mind seeing on AEW television? Their AEW Women's Champion! This match was for the NWA Women's Championship. I don't mind the NWA Women's Championship being defended on the show, not at all. But the AEW Women's Champion, somehow, some way, is just less important from the way I perceive her on this show than the NWA Women's Champion. Thunder Rosa had a really good run in AEW as NWA Women's Champion against Hikaru Shida or against other opponents. She looked stronger in some episodes than Hikaru Shida did, who was the AEW Women's Champion. The Women's Champion also doesn't have a very good story going into Full Gear, but we'll talk about that later. Serena Deeb ended up winning this match, tapping out Layla Hirsch with a Tequila Sunrise to retain Women's Championship, so good for her. Shawn Spears faced VSK. Okay, he won the match. Then the main event came. Kenny Omega versus Pentagon El Zero Miedo. I thought this was a really good match. Definitely the best match on the show. Kenny was healing it up a lot in this match. If you didn't believe Kenny was going to heal, you gotta believe it now, because I don't know how more clearly he can convey that he is going cleaner soon. Maybe not exactly cleaner, but heelish soon. What I did not like about this match, however, was a spot towards the end. So Pentagon has Kenny Omega on the outside of the ring. And he sets Kenny up. Kenny's bent over. You know what he's heading for. He hits a Mexican Destroyer onto Kenny Omega onto the ramp outside of the ring, which is Pentagon's finisher. But Kenny's outside of the ring, of course, so he can't pin him. So he gets Kenny inside the ring. Doesn't go for the pin, which I would have bought into for a kick out because he wasted time. But he gets Kenny up and hits a pump handle driver, which is also a finisher of Pentagon. So this man not only had one finisher in the ring, but a finisher outside of the ring. So 2 big moves back to back on the Kenny Omega. That should be the end of the match. But Kenny Omega kicked out of this. I did not like that at all. You kicked out of 2 finishers back to back, and one of them was a move outside of the... I didn't like that at all. But it happened, whatever. Subside that one blemish I did not like about the match. Kenny did end up winning the match with a one-winged angel on the Pentagon and got the pin, so it officially will be Kenny Omega versus Hangman Page at AEW Full Gear. But now that we are here, let's finally talk about AEW Full Gear coming up this Saturday. I will be live on twitch.tv/TylerSuplex for my live reactions to AEW Full Gear. It is my first time being live on Twitch for an AEW pay-per-view. Was I live on here for All Out? Well, yeah, since All Out, never mind. I like to... I'm so used to live streaming on YouTube still that I sometimes forget that I actually did a stream on Twitch already. So this is my second ever AEW Full Gear, AEW live stream on this platform. So I'm excited for that. We have 8 matches on this card. 1 confirmed for the pre-show, the buy-in as they call it. Confirmed here is Orange Cassidy versus John Silver. A match built up off of a run-in. Okay. I mean, I guess Orange Cassidy gets his win back? I don't know. This match just seems like it unnecessarily is happening. But I'm honestly shocked that Shawn Spears isn't on this card yet. Now, we could very well see him on the card for the buy-in very soon. We do have one more Dynamite before that show, so don't be surprised if he's on the show later on in the week. Coming up, we have Hikaru Shida defending her AEW Women's World Championship against Nyla Rose. This match has absolutely zero build-up outside of Hikaru Shida and say, hey, Nyla, you're number 1. You've been number 1 for weeks now, even though you haven't done shit on Dynamite. I'm going to challenge you. And then that's the build-up. Poor booking for this women's championship. Still, we're 1 year ahead from this company finally having their Dynamite debut on TNT television, and they're still underbooking this division. I really want to tear into it, but I don't have the capacity to at the moment. Who wins? I don't fucking care. Like, I'm getting to the point where I don't care about this division anymore. I so badly want to care about this championship that it pains me to see them mistreated like this. But at some point, the care you have for something that is not being shown the appreciation it deserves, it wears thin to the point where it's no longer there. And right now, my care for this championship and this division is wearing thin. And I can feel it amongst the other fans in AEW. Their attention, their investment in this division is wearing thin. And if AEW wants to save that, they'll get their head on straight very soon, starting this weekend. Give them time. Give them a great match. Don't give us a title change. I don't want to see Nyla Rose as the champion again. Well, quite frankly, I don't really care who's a champion coming out of this. That's how much I care about this right now. I don't really care who's a champion coming out of this. I want a meaningful storyline for this women's division. That's what I want. So I need them to figure that out very, very soon. I'm going to say Hikaru Shida retains. Next up, we have Matt Hardy versus Sammy Guevara and Elite Deletion. That's going to be a cinematic match, very similar to the Final Deletion? The Final Deletion that they did in Impact Wrestling 4 years ago. That pretty much revolutionized cinematic wrestling as we know it today. It's also what really got the trend started for a lot of the stuff and wackiness we know in professional wrestling right now. With the Hardys and, King Maxwell and Vanguard 1 and all that kind of stuff. I anticipate this should be the very final match these guys have. They should have ended it all out. Hopefully nobody dies in this match. Hopefully no more concussions for Matt Hardy. But who knows? I'm going to go with Matt Hardy to win this match and end this feud once and for all. Please. So we can move on to different opponents. After that, we have Chris Jericho versus MJF. If MJF wins this match, beats Chris Jericho, he will be allowed to join the Inner Circle. I think this can go one of two ways. I think A, MJF wins, plain straight up, maybe even cheats to beat Chris Jericho. Or 2, Chris Jericho wins, and MJF attacks Chris Jericho, and then the Inner Circle turns on Chris Jericho, and MJF still joins the Inner Circle, but this time takes it away from Chris Jericho. I think that if MJF wins, you can get more mileage out of Chris Jericho and MJF segments. But if Chris Jericho wins, if MJF... I got that backwards. I got that all torn out. If MJF wins, I think that you could get more mileage out of Chris Jericho and MJF segments. But if Chris Jericho wins, I think that turn happens now. So, depending on what direction you want to go in, this can go either way. I'm going to say that MJF wins this match, and we'll get a little more out of this feud than just, he joins the Inner Circle and that's it. I think maybe what you can do is you can even carry this out for the rest of November, maybe December, then do the turn in January. Maybe that first episode of Dynamite of the new year, you have MJF have the Inner Circle turn on Jericho. You build up to the rematch at Revolution next year in February. That's what I would do. That's what I would do personally. We also have Cody versus Darby Allin for the AEW TNT Championship. This is a no-brainer. Darby Allin should be winning this match. I don't care if Cody is a heel now. I don't care if Cody's turning heel at the pay-per-view. Cody should not be beating Darby Allin. I'm sorry, but him coming back on day 2, I should say, and beating Brody Lee to become the TNT champion once again, it just seemed like the title being lost kind of didn't mean as much as it did the first time. Also, he beat Orange Cassidy twice. I think he beat somebody before Orange Cassidy, or might be getting it mixed up here. I don't think Cody needs to be champion any longer. He's been champion already. He's been champion for quite some time. He had defenses. What more are you gaining from Cody beating the rest of his talent? Like, I question me this. Answer me this. Cody has already beat, I believe, Isaiah Cassidy, Jungle Boy. He's beaten a lot of his talent already. He's still the executive vice president. He didn't step down once he became the TNT champion. He's still making decisions around there. You are actively beating your talent every single week you are the TNT champion. Unless you lose the title. So, what does Cody gain? What are we gaining here if Cody beats Darby and continues to beat the rest of his talent? Who's going to beat Cody? Who is slotted to beat Cody outside of Darby Allin, who has a ready-made story? It's been dating back since Fyter Fest last year when Cody and Darby faced off and Cody beat him. Then he had a second match, or wait, was it time limit draw? Time limit draw in their first match. Then he had a second match and Cody beat him, which was in the TNT Championship tournament. So it almost makes sense for it to come full circle like that. Cody beats him in the TNT Championship tournament. Darby beats him for the TNT Championship after he already... It makes sense. It's a story there. So I think it'll be dumb for them to finally be like, oh, we should pull the trigger on Cody turning. No, bitch. You should have did that weeks ago. You better hold off on that. So if you want to do it, do it after Darby wins. Do it after Darby wins. But don't do it and then have Cody win to get heel heat. No, I don't want to see that shit. Darby Allin wins, hands down. That should be the end result. Anything else, I'm not going to like. We also have FTR versus the Young Bucks for the AEW Tag Team Championships. The added stipulation here, which I was going to mention earlier, but I held off on. Stipulation is, if the Young Bucks do not win this match, that they will never be able to contend for the AEW World Tag Team Championships, which is a stipulation that they themselves made up. Nobody but the Young Bucks made the stipulation for themselves. All or nothing is what they're giving this match. Completely not needed. They did not need to add the stipulation to the match. And I feel like I get the sense that they did because the build up to it, a lot of fans are not pleased with it. I myself am not pleased with the build up to this match. It feels very lackluster. Now, we do got to consider that this has been a very long time coming. It is a dream match after all. They could just go off the fact it's a dream match, which I feel like they could have done. But once they started adding in the aspect of the Young Bucks being heelish dickheads and all this other stuff, like the Young Bucks are really the part of the reason why this... I'll be the one to say it. All right? The Young Bucks are the biggest reason why the storyline is not that good. From the super kicking people for no reason, to this added stipulation, to the weird ass promos, they are the biggest reason why this match feels weird and out of place and not as big as it should be. So I really don't know where people were saying, oh, well, I don't know where it's coming from. No, it's the Young Bucks' fault. So they made the stipulation to save it, and I feel like that's doing more harm than good, because now you put yourself in a situation where if FTR wins, are you really going to have the Young Bucks never challenge for the titles? Are you really going to have 3 EVPs never challenge for the world titles? Is that what you're telling me? Are you just going to create AEW TNT World Tag Team Championships? Because that's what I kept on hearing people were going to do. They were going to do, which is funny. I mean, they're not going to do it. It was just, jokey jokes online. But, is that what they're going to do? They're going to create new tag team titles for them to hold? It's predictable. The Young Bucks have to win. If they don't win, then you've given away the finish. And if they do win, then you've given away the finish. In a sense. It's a lose-lose situation. I felt like it was better for them not to have added the stipulation. But, hey, they wanted to add more stuff in here to make it interesting. That was the backwards effect in my opinion, but that's them. I'm going to go with the Young Bucks to win this match to become the new AEW Tag Team Champions. I just hope that this lives up to the hype and expectations we all have. Because if not, then this is really going to suck. Because not only is the feud lackluster, but then the match wasn't as good as we all hoped it would be. So I hope they kill it, and I'm sure they will. Lastly, we have 2 more matches here. Hangman Page versus Kenny Omega in the finals of the AEW World Championship Eliminator Tournament. The winner gets a future shot at the AEW World Championship. A feud that's been brewing up for an entire year, finally culminating here. I love it. I can't wait for it. It can go either way still. Hangman Page wins. Kenny Omega can turn heel right then and there after the match. Kenny Omega turns heel during the match and beats Hangman Page. I think the Omega heel turn's happening at this show. I don't see how it's not. Just by the way he's been building, it's been built up this entire like latter half of the year. I don't see how it doesn't happen. So Kenny Omega is either going to lose a heel or win a heel. And I think he's going to win a heel. I think Kenny Omega wins this match. If we get Jon Moxley versus either Kenny Omega versus either Jon Moxley or Eddie Kingston later in the year for the AEW World Title. Or maybe even next year. Who knows? Then finally, the main event. Jon Moxley versus Eddie Kingston in an I Quit match for the AEW World Championship. I don't really know how this is going to go. I had some really funny theories out there for how this can go with my friend Dane. I talked about that in the last episode. But if we're being honest here, I think Jon Moxley wins. I don't know how they're going to get Eddie Kingston to say I quit, though. That's the really, really intriguing part. You have two men in here who really don't give off the vibe like they will ever quit. So how are you going to convince me that these two men are going to quit? What is going to have to happen here? Are they going to have to get stabbed or shanked or something? I don't know. But I'm interested nonetheless. And I think Jon Moxley retains the title. And that is AEW Full Gear. Comment down below what are your thoughts on the show coming up in just a few days. Moving on from that, we have New Japan Pro Wrestling. They have announced their entrance for Best of the Super Juniors 27. Participants being the likes of Bushi, Doki, El Desperado, Hiromu Takahashi, Master Wato, the returning Robbie Eagles, Ryusuke Taguchi, Sho, Taiji Ishimori, and Yoshinobu Kanemaru. 10 men in the tournament, 1 block, most points wins. So there is no block, there's a block finals, but obviously there's going to be somebody determined as the winner by who won the most matches, which changes things up from how BOSJ normally goes. I'll talk about my predictions later on. But they also went ahead and announced Super J Cup, a tournament happening on New Japan of America television on New Japan World. In this tournament, which I am more excited for than BOSJ 27, not going to lie, we have ACH, Blake Christian, Chris Bay of Impact Wrestling, Clark Connors, El Fantasmo, Leo Rush, Ray Horace of Ring of Honor, and TJP. 8 men in BOSJ 27 single elimination, and then 10 men in BOSJ 27 round robin. I think this is going to be really great all around. Cannot wait for both men. Now, I'm not going to say who I think wins. I'm going to hold off on that because there's a question in here asked by Mason Goldberg, one of my Patreon backers. Also, big shout out to my Patreon backers. You can go to my Patreon, patreon.com/TylerMask, and look at the tiers. $1 tier, $5 tier, $10 tiers. You could be like them. So big shout out to Mason Goldberg, Heather Rice, Aaron Caravan, NJPW Fan 10, and Liam Version 1 for all doing subscription services to the platform. I appreciate you guys very much, and I hope you're all enjoying the content. I asked on Patreon, we have some topics to discuss here. What should one of them be? Mason Goldberg brought up 2 questions. The first being, how do you think Hiromu is doing so far as his role in replacing Liger as the undisputed junior ace figure? Well, that happened at the very beginning of the year. And we're now in November, so it's only been 10 months. And for about a solid 3-4 of those months, there was no New Japan. And then for another solid 2 months, there was no juniors. So, think about it here. Hiromu Takahashi's been active for all of, 2 months here. He's been active for January, February, June, July, some of August, and then he was active for October. That's it. He's been active for 5 months. So to answer your question, no, I don't think he has, and it's not his fault because we were all plagued by the virus, but New Japan got hit the hardest because they had to suffer 3 months with no shows. and then running a G1 climax with no tag matches, so we still saw no Hiromu. And then, top that all off, Hiromu Takahashi lost his title to Taiji Ishimori at Summer Struggle. So no. He's not. Can he be? Yes, he can. Is he right now? I don't think so. Nobody is right now. I don't think anybody's replaced Liger just yet, because no one really had the opportunity or the time or the place to replace Liger. And the question really shouldn't even be who will replace Liger, but who is going to be up there with him, because I don't think a lot of these guys are replaceable. Liger's one of those once-in-a-lifetime type of figures we have. I think Hiromu is Hiromu and Liger is Liger. And this is not to down your question or anything, but I do think Hiromu Takahashi doesn't have to be the next Liger. I think he could be the next Hiromu, and he can cement his own legacy in that right. And I think through great matches, great character work, he will do just that. And finally, we're going to close out here with one question from Mason Goldberg as well. Well, another question, I should say. How do you think the 2 nights at the Dome will actually work? Will any title be defended on both nights? So he's essentially asking me, how do I think the championship defenses will happen in the Tokyo Dome? Now, I was there for the first ever 2-night special. I was there earlier this year. I have to remind you, I was there, Wrestle Kingdom 14. My greatest accomplishment ever was going to Tokyo for this show. Now, going into this year's show, not as much talent as last year, but the borders are opening up for work, so I think we may even have the same people from last year on the show. If we do, we're in good standings. If not, I don't know. But here's how I have it lined up. Here's how I would do, personally, I would do nights 1 and 2 of Wrestle Kingdom. All right, night 1, I would have the IWGP Junior Heavyweight Tag Team Championship defended. I'm not going to say who's in what match yet, because I don't really know myself. I would have the Never Openweight 6-Man Tag Team Championships defended. I would have the winner of the Super J Cup versus the winner of Best of the Super Juniors, which I heard online. I agree with this statement. And then the winner will face the champion on night 2. Now, to go back to the participants earlier, I believe that Hiromu Takahashi will win the Best of the Super Juniors this year. And I believe that... I really badly want to say Leo Rush, but I also believe that El Fantasmo will win Best of the Super Juniors this year. Again. So I think that the match will end up being Hiromu Takahashi versus El Fantasmo. I believe we'll have a KOPW provisional or finals, the Toriano Trophy, that will be defended, finally. A U.S. title defense. We will be seeing the IWGP U.S. title defended on that show. Hopefully, Jon Moxley can come to Japan and defend the title. If not, then strip him. And then I believe we will be seeing both titles, the IWGP Heavyweights and IC, defended on night 1 in the same match. Moving on to night 2. Night 2, I believe we will see the Never Openweight Championship defended, the singles. So, the 6-man tag on night 1, the singles on night 2. I also think we will see the IWGP Heavyweight Tag Team Championships defended on the show. So, juniors on night 1, heavyweight on night 2. I think we will see the Junior Heavyweight Championship defended on this show. I don't have another title defended after that. I do think that if there is one title I could see be defended twice, it should be the U.S. title. Because considering that Jon Moxley has literally been an absentee champion since really the entire year, if anyone should defend the title twice, it should be him. And if he loses on night 1, then whoever the champion is should defend against someone else on night 2. So let's throw in the U.S. title defense on there as well. And then finally, this is where things get tricky. Because I don't know what I would do here. I either would have another double title defense with the IC and heavyweight on the line, or separate defenses. Now, the reason I say it's an issue is because when you talk about separate defenses, you have to consider that the champion is already wrestled on night 1. So essentially, you're asking the champion, who just successfully defended their title, both titles already, to defend each title separately. So now they're competing 3 times, which increases the chances of them losing the title. I don't know how I feel about that. I feel like if you're going to do... Because people have been saying this all year. When are they going to separate the titles? When are they going to split them up? I'm ready for the titles to be split up. You know, if they split the titles up, I honestly would be happy about that. I'm not like crying about the titles being together, but I think that there's more to be done with 2 titles split apart than there are to be together. I didn't expect them to keep these titles together the entire year, but they did. So good on them for sticking to what they were originally planning on doing. But at the same time, we're talking about a company that has only 2 singles belts right now for the heavyweights. The Never Openweight Championship and the IC Heavyweight, which is all in one, basically. There's been no separate title defense all year. If we're going to do it at the biggest show of the year, which is Wrestle Kingdom. How would I go about it? Who would I do in that role? I don't know. I don't have them mapped out in my head right now. But I think if they are going through with this, I would probably say maybe do a match between maybe the 2 of the second highest of the block for A block and B block in the G1 Climax, or maybe Will Ospreay versus Okada can determine who will face the champion, the IC champion or the heavyweight champion. Like, I don't know how they would go about it, but I see they're doing either 2 title defenses, IC and heavyweight separately, or both defended again. I don't know what that match will be, but I do predict that Kota Ibushi versus Tetsuya Naito will inevitably be the match main event on night 1, and I hope no one dies. And that is all I'm going to say here. I am out of here, guys. That was Chill Po episode 9. That was really episode twice. It's been Botchamania all episode. If you've been here since the end, please give it a thumbs up. I appreciate you. And comment down below Golden Star if you made it to the end of this episode. All the botches you heard and shit. But that was Chill Po episode 19. What did you guys think? Comment down below. Let me know all of your thoughts. Rate this episode on Podbean, which is still not on Podbean for some reason. I'm lacking. I know. I'm sorry. Way long. Who's listening to this? I'm lacking. I'll put it up on Podbean very soon. If you listen to this on YouTube, like, subscribe, all that good shit. And guys, 3 weeks straight, I'm going to shoot for 4. That being said, I will see you all next Wednesday for the 20th edition of the Chill Po podcast. Peace out, guys.